First, unexplained weight loss. A gentle warning from the body. As we age, small physical changes are often brushed off as just getting older. But one of the most important signs that should never be ignored is sudden, unexplained weight loss. If you or a loved one begins to lose weight without trying, even just a few pounds over a couple of months, it could be your body quietly signaling that something deeper is happening. In many elderly individuals, weight loss is one of the first and most reliable indicators that the body is entering a more fragile state, sometimes even foreshadowing the final year of life. What makes this sign tricky is that it often starts slowly. A pair of pants feels looser. A long-time favorite meal doesn't taste the same. You find yourself skipping breakfast or feeling full after just a few bites. For family members, it's easy to assume this is normal. After all, it's common for older adults to have smaller appetites. But when weight loss continues, especially without any effort, it's a red flag. There are several reasons this happens. As the body begins to slow down, it may stop absorbing nutrients as efficiently. Muscle loss or sarcopenia becomes more pronounced, especially if physical activity decreases. Chronic conditions like heart failure, kidney disease, or even depression can all suppress appetite. In some cases, even the early stages of cognitive decline can affect how often someone eats or whether they remember to eat at all. What's more, food may simply stop tasting as good. The senses dull, and meals feel like chores rather than pleasure. In this stage, many families try to respond with well-meaning solutions. Favorite foods, smoothies, nutritional supplements. These efforts may help, but if the underlying decline continues, it's important to shift the goal. Rather than pushing for calories, focus on comfort. Offer small, easy-to-chew foods. Share meal times to create connection, and most importantly, talk with a doctor to rule out any treatable causes. For those caring for elderly loved ones, recognizing this early gives you a powerful opportunity. It allows you to prioritize what really matters: connection, comfort, and quality time, while also preparing emotionally and practically for what may come. It's not about giving up. It's about tuning in. When the body speaks through changes like weight loss, it deserves our full attention, not fear, but compassion and understanding. So if you've noticed your parent, spouse, or even yourself losing weight without reason, don't ignore it. It might not be just aging. It might be the body's quiet way of asking for a different kind of care, one rooted in love, support, and presence. When tiredness is more than just getting older. After noticing someone close to you lose weight without trying, the next thing you might begin to see, often subtly at first, is a constant sense of tiredness. Not the kind that goes away after a good night's sleep or a relaxing day off. This is a deeper kind of fatigue, a quiet but steady drain on energy that makes everyday tasks feel more and more difficult. If your loved one used to enjoy tending the garden, taking a walk, or even just getting dressed in the morning, but now seems too exhausted to do those things, it's time to pay attention. This kind of fatigue is not just about getting older. In many cases, especially when paired with weight loss, it's a signal that the body is entering a different stage, one where it's quietly shifting focus from activity and strength to preservation. Many older adults in the U.S. pride themselves on their independence, and rightfully so. They've built lives, raised families, held careers, and weathered decades of change. So when they begin needing to rest more, or no longer have the energy to cook a simple meal or chat for more than a few minutes, it's often brushed off by themselves and by others as just slowing down. But here's the truth. Persistent fatigue is one of the strongest signs that the body is conserving its final stores of energy. The organs are working harder. Circulation may be weaker. Muscles, already impacted by weight loss, aren't getting the oxygen they once did. And emotionally, this fatigue often leads to withdrawal, not because our loved ones don't care anymore, but because they simply don't have the strength to keep up. Take Mr. Thompson, an 84-year-old retired teacher from Ohio. He used to enjoy reading the morning paper with his wife and walking to the local diner for coffee. Over time, those routines disappeared. "I feel like I'm moving through water," he once told his daughter. It wasn't depression. It wasn't laziness. His body was simply changing, entering its final chapter with quiet, undeniable signals. As caregivers or adult children, our role isn't to push them back into routines that once worked. It's to recognize this shift and respond with compassion. Sit with them in their stillness. Ask shorter questions. Create comfort. Choose presence over productivity. When weight loss and fatigue show up together, the message is clear. It's not just about living longer anymore. It's about living softer, with dignity and understanding. This is when our love is needed most, not in trying to fix things, but in learning to accompany someone gently, faithfully, through a time when energy is no longer a resource to spend, but something to protect. When the mind begins to drift, recognizing mental and emotional withdrawal in our loved ones, following the fatigue, another quiet shift often begins, and this one can be even harder to witness. Your loved one, once sharp, witty, and full of life, begins to seem different. They might forget what day it is. They might repeat the same story twice within an hour, or seem to lose interest in a conversation halfway through. You might even catch them staring off in silence, not out of boredom, but as if they've wandered somewhere far away. This stage, increased cognitive confusion and emotional withdrawal, doesn't always happen overnight. It creeps in slowly, and for many families, especially here in the US, where older adults often live independently or in assisted settings, it's easy to miss the early clues. But these are more than just signs of aging. When paired with fatigue and weight loss, they often mark the beginning of the body and mind preparing for the final phase of life. Imagine visiting your father, who always loved talking politics, suddenly struggling to keep up with the news. Or your mother, once a master organizer, now mixing up the names of her grandchildren. At first, these slips are brushed off. "I'm just tired," they say. "It's just old age." But deep down, you know something is changing. As cognitive function declines, conversations become harder. Socializing, once energizing, becomes exhausting. The brain is working overtime just to stay oriented, and there's less room left for casual chatter or long phone calls. This is when withdrawal begins. Not because your loved one doesn't want to connect, but because their energy, mentally and emotionally, is running low. And here's something many don't talk about. This stage often comes with waves of emotion. Sometimes irritability, sometimes unusual calm, other times a blank stare that feels like absence. As heartbreaking as it is, this withdrawal is part of a natural process, a gentle fading, not just of memory, but of presence. In this moment, what your loved one needs most is not correction or coaxing. They don't need to be brought back to reality. What they need is your calm presence, a familiar hand to hold, a soft voice that says, "I'm here," even if they forget your name. Remember, connection doesn't always require words. A quiet meal together, sitting beside them while they nap, playing their favorite music. These small moments are still filled with meaning. So if you've noticed a shift in your loved one's memory, awareness, or emotional engagement, especially following fatigue and weight loss, take heart. You're not losing them completely. They're simply moving more slowly, more inwardly. And your quiet patience, now more than ever, is the greatest gift you can offer. When the body stops bouncing back, understanding recurring infections and slow healing. After noticing changes in memory, mood, and energy, there's another sign that's harder to ignore. The body's ability to heal begins to fade. For many older adults, especially those nearing the final stage of life, even small scrapes or sniffles become major hurdles. That little cut from gardening last week, it's still not healing. The common cold they usually shake off in a few days. It lingers for weeks, sometimes turning into something more serious. It's in these small but persistent battles that the body begins to quietly signal, "I'm tired." In the United States, where older adults often value their independence, this shift can feel especially disheartening. You've taken care of yourself all your life. You've bounced back from surgeries, flu seasons, and even tougher health scares. But now the recovery is slower, and sometimes doesn't come at all. You may notice that your loved one seems to be catching everything. UTIs become more frequent. Chest infections start to return every few months. Maybe there's a lingering cough that doesn't go away or a sore that just won't heal. These aren't isolated incidents. They're signs that the immune system, once a loyal protector, is no longer able to keep up. It's not failing out of neglect. It's simply winding down. For families, this can be confusing. You find yourself in a loop of doctor visits, antibiotics, and temporary recoveries. One round of meds helps, but then another infection appears. And the more this happens, the more you begin to realize this isn't just about treating the illness. It's about recognizing a deeper transition. One caregiver shared with me the story of her father, a 90-year-old retired truck driver who'd never missed a day of work in his life. "Dad always said he was tougher than a diesel engine," she smiled. But in his final year, it was the little things that wore him down. A cough that never left, a sore on his leg that wouldn't close. Eventually, they stopped fighting every symptom and started focusing on making him comfortable, surrounded by love, music, and warm hands. This shift, from curing to caring, is one of the most profound moments a family can walk through. It's not about giving up, it's about giving differently. So if you've noticed repeated infections, slow healing, or just a body that doesn't bounce back like it used to, it's time to look beyond the surface. These signs, especially when they follow weight loss, fatigue, and cognitive decline, are your cue to focus on comfort, connection, and peace. The immune system may be slowing, but your love and your presence is more powerful than ever. When every breath speaks, the subtle signs of a body slowing down. After a year marked by slow healing and repeated infections, the body often begins to whisper more clearly through its breath and heartbeat. Changes in breathing and circulation may seem subtle at first. A little more shortness of breath when walking across the room, a need to sleep propped up with extra pillows, or cold hands and feet even in a warm room. But these are not just inconveniences. For many older adults, they are signs that the body is entering its final, most delicate chapter. You might notice your loved one taking long pauses between breaths or suddenly breathing faster for no apparent reason. Maybe their lips or fingertips take on a bluish hue, or they seem more winded after speaking a few sentences. In the medical world, this shift in rhythm is often described as the body conserving energy, But in everyday life, it can feel like the person you love is fading. Not dramatically, but quietly, breath by breath. I remember sitting beside my neighbor, Earl, a 91-year-old Navy veteran who used to joke that he'd outrun Father Time. But in the last 6 months of his life, even chatting about the Yankees left him breathless. He no longer wanted to lie flat in bed and began sleeping in his favorite recliner. "Helps me catch my breath," he'd say. We knew it wasn't just about comfort. It was his body's way of adapting, of coping with lungs that didn't work quite like they used to. For caregivers and family members, this stage often brings a mix of anxiety and helplessness. We want to help. We encourage deep breaths, offer more water, or call the nurse. But sometimes, it's not about fixing the symptom. It's about recognizing what it means. When oxygen struggles to reach the outer parts of the body, the hands, the toes, the skin, it's because the heart is prioritizing the vital organs. This is the body's way of saying, "I'm winding down." At this point, the most powerful thing we can offer isn't treatment, it's presence. A quiet room, a soothing voice, gentle touches, maybe soft music that brings back memories. What once required medical intervention now requires emotional connection. This moment is deeply sacred, and for families in the U.S., where many elders still live at home or in assisted care, understanding these final signs helps avoid unnecessary panic and instead invites peace. If your loved one begins to breathe differently, don't just reach for the phone. Sit down beside them, hold their hand, let them know they're safe. Because in the end, even as breath slows and circulation fades, the heart, both literal and emotional, is still listening. Let it feel your love. Embracing the final chapter with love, awareness, and peace. When we think about the end of life, we often imagine it happening all at once, a moment, a day, a goodbye. But the truth is, the body usually tells us far in advance, through subtle signs like unexplained weight loss, deep fatigue, cognitive confusion, repeated infections, and changes in breathing or circulation. It begins whispering that time is shifting. These signs, though difficult to face, are not just medical realities. They're emotional invitations to be more present, more tender, and more prepared. If you've noticed one or more of these changes in someone you love, know that you're not alone. Many families across the U.S. face this path quietly, unsure whether what they're seeing is just aging or something more. But the truth is, recognizing these patterns early can make all the difference. It allows you to shift from rushing to fix things to gently preparing for what matters most: comfort, connection, and meaningful moments. These signs are not alarms to panic. They are signals to prioritize presence. When a loved one begins to eat less, grows tired more often, or starts to withdraw from conversations, it's not about giving up. It's about honoring their pace, their energy, and their dignity. When breath becomes shallow or circulation slows, it doesn't mean we've failed them. It means it's time to slow down with them, to meet them where they are with compassion and calm. And yes, it's hard. Watching someone you love fade, little by little, is one of life's greatest heartbreaks, but it's also one of its greatest honors. You get to be there, to hold their hand, to tell them stories, to make sure their final days aren't filled with loneliness, confusion, or discomfort, but with gentle music, warm blankets, and the sound of a familiar voice saying, "I'm right here." You don't need to be a doctor to give good care. You just need to pay attention. Small comforts matter more than we realize. A favorite meal, a photo by the bedside, a soft light instead of harsh glare. And if you're not sure what to do or say, simply being present, even in silence, is more than enough. So if today you're walking this path with an aging parent, a beloved spouse, or a lifelong friend, take heart. The final year of life can still hold moments of deep beauty, healing, and peace. Let those moments be your focus. Let love be your guide. And above all, know this: you are not walking through this alone.